It's too late.
Time doesn't erase murder. It just hides it better. They said the case was closed. They said no one was watching. But someone always is. This is Santana True Crime.
Welcome to Santana True Crime. Tonight we've got another packed house for our Thanksgiving special. I've got Dr. Brian Santana, Kelli Brink, and Jayson Blair. I know we've had everyone on, but thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This
for
was
having
my
us on
idea,
again.
I think, maybe.
Absolutely.
Thank
We've been
you.
talking about this for a while, and I'm sure we're going to get some quirks worked out, but I think this is going to be an amazing show. We've all brought a case with us to talk about and discuss. I think Brian's going to kick us off tonight. So, Brian, what do you have for us?
So this is a fairly recent case in terms of the resolution. So I'll give that preview just off the top. So this is the case of the 1991 murder of Cynthia Gonzalez. And if any of you followed the news, this case was solved within the past 2 weeks. So, but this is a case that started on September 17th, 1991. Kind of to keep it short. So Cynthia Gonzalez was an adult entertainer based out of Arlington, Texas. And she was on September 17th, 1991, she was en route to a meeting with a client. She never reappeared the next day. Her ex-husband ended up reporting her missing to the police. And shortly afterwards, police became very suspicious because her car turned up abandoned. Investigators were initially working under the assumption that she was maybe kidnapped due to her line of work and some initial witness reports. But 5 days later, on September 22nd, 1991, her body was found in a rural area of Johnson County, Texas. She had been shot multiple times. And really, to make a long story short, police had a number of leads and several persons of interest, but the case went completely cold. Now, why I'm talking about this case right now is because of a fascinating development that's happened over the last few months. So on November 6th, 2025, so this past month, the Arlington police held a press conference and they announced that a 63-year-old woman named Jamie Perkins had been arrested and charged with capital murder for the murder of Cynthia Gonzalez. And more surprising and more of interest to me was the fact that the Arlington chief of police publicly gave credit to a criminology class of undergraduates, mostly 18 and 19-year-olds at the University of Texas at Arlington, for solving the case. They were students of a professor there named Dr. Patricia Eddings. And her class had formed, she taught a class that was about criminal investigations and cold cases. And to give her students real world experience, she had created a very unique partnership with the Arlington Police Department, in which they agreed to hand over the full case files for 3 cold cases each semester. And the students were divided into groups. And this is close to my heart as true crime professor, because I've literally done this exact same thing with my students before. But I was very inspired by this story. But they worked in groups, and for 4 months, they went through each group went through a single case. They went through the entire case file. They read every witness statement. They went through evidence. They had all the crime scene photos and police reports. In total, it's been reported that they read close to 1,000 pages of police case file documents related to this. And at the end of the semester, the students really honed in on Perkins, the person who was ultimately arrested for this crime. And they were interested. They started looking into her because she had initially failed 2 questions on polygraphs. She was on the police radar, but they dug a little bit deeper than the police did. They started talking to people that were associated with her and really kind of leaning into it. And they ended up getting some testimony that she had made comments shortly after Cynthia Gonzalez's murder that she was not sorry that she was dead. And they found other witnesses who said that both Gonzalez and Perkins were romantically involved with the same man at the time of Gonzalez's death, a fact that the police did not know at the time. The students at the end of the semester, a few weeks ago, presented what they had to police and said, we really think you should at least talk to this Perkins again. We think she looks really good for this. The Arlington police, to their credit, went out and confronted Perkins and tried to re-interview her. And instead of fighting it, she immediately confessed. And she came forward and confessed to the entire thing, and charges soon followed. You mentioned you posted the pictures. They had a press conference where they announced the arrest. The cold case detectives had posed with the actual class. That's the actual class that solved the case. And Cynthia Gonzalez, at the time of her murder, had a 6-year-old daughter who, and this was a big motivating factor for many of the students. And they said that one of the students was quoted by a local media outlet as saying, when we first started working on this case, a fire was lit within me, and we really wanted to solve this for Cynthia's daughter. And so this was a feel-good story for me, and one that I feel like we don't get to talk about quite as much, but just this, I think that true crime sometimes gets a bad rap in some circles from people, but about the whole armchair detective or sleuth can feel like a very derogatory label. But in this case, I think that the benefit of having fresh eyes on a case and detectives being willing and just to explore, just having other people look at it and give their thoughts. Spending 4 months closely looking at case files, different perspectives emerge forward, and I think this is a good story. Both the openness to the police to pursue different, to bring in different people to it, the real world experience the students got in the criminology class, and then of course the actual arrest that resulted from a class project.
I
That's
love this.
awesome.
Yeah,
That
I
is
love this
awesome.
so much. I love a good armchair sleuth story.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with cats. I mean, there are just so many, but I love this. And police, detectives, they're stretched so thin. There are a few of them, and a cold case is not going to be their priority, maybe, after so much time. They have so many irons in the fire and current cases to chase after. And so you can just pool the resources of a dozen passionate college students and boom, solved. That's awesome. Not to undermine the amazing work detectives do. I mean, they do. They work so hard, but that is just awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that reminds me, I am actually grateful for true crime. I spend a lot of time sort of like beating up on true crime as a genre because of some of its problems. But I really do believe that it brings about a lot of good. A lot of good things come out of it. And, I was talking to an advocate this morning, and we were talking about, like, and this ties back to your case, we were talking about the general problem of, a lot of reasons why police don't get resources or don't put attention on cases is because politicians don't care about them. Politicians don't care about them because the public doesn't. And it's this cascading effect that ultimately starts back with us as people. But I was making the point to the advocate, there's also another thing at play. Some of the toughest cases to solve are because, you can't get access to the victim's friends. They don't want to talk. You can't get certain resources. In a case like mine, all my neighbors would talk to you. Everybody at work would talk to you. In other situations, that it becomes a much harder thing, and you have to build rapport and trust. But a big reason I do think some of those cases don't get a lot of attention is the police simply just do not have the resources to do it. So when outsiders, whether it's advocates or it's a class or it's just, some person who has some kind of idea or ability to look into something or search for someone do get involved, it really does free law enforcement up to put its energy in there. So I am actually grateful for people in true crime. It's really easy to harp on the negatives for me personally, because I always want things to be better. But in reality, I think curiosity really has a profoundly powerful impact on society, whether it's crime or it's just understanding someone else, a different culture, for example. Follow your curiosity, keep your questions open, explore things that you're interested in. Somewhere along the road, there's going to be an opportunity to do some good. Real believer in that. So,
Yeah, and I think you're both right as far as the resource issue. One of the people I've had on is Troy Hillman, who worked one of the first cold cases to use genetic genealogy to solve a crime. And that was great, and it was a very complex case. But they also had 2,000 other cases assigned to his unit. And I don't think that people realize that and keep that to perspective of like, yeah, they want to solve this, but they've also got a responsibility to take care of these other cases as well. And I think that that's a good solution for these cold cases that are decades old and just not going anywhere and need someone to go through that file from start to finish and comb through it. And we've seen that in modern day policing as well with Delphi, where the person who found the suspect was not a detective, was going through the files and, oh, this person claimed to have been there. And so I do think that is a positive that I wish more people would embrace. Hopefully, Brian, you can bring that to UNC Wilmington.
Well, I will say there are other schools that are
cases in North Carolina.
Yeah, no, there are, and there's a lot of other schools that are doing this. Case Western University, just to give them a quick shout out to, like their criminal justice department is paired with local police and does something very similar. They get cold cases every single semester. Students do the entire master case file. Some of these are from the 1970s or 1980s, and the students, many of whom are aspiring to work in law enforcement, actually learn about kind of like investigations and kind of learn about the kind of process by actually tracing their way through the actual case files. And so it's a really not only good learning experience, but there have been other good results that have popped up. There was a high school class in Tennessee that actually solved a decades-old cold case there recently because the high school students actually created, using AI, actually, an algorithm that looked at the victims who were believed to be linked in the case and used a predictive model to kind of determine what employer, had people that were truckers. They believed it was likely a trucker to actually go this particular route. And they were able to narrow the field from a very wide array of suspects to about 5 pretty quickly in a year. And I think that the different skill sets, in that case, the high school instructor was a former retired FBI agent. So they had really good guidance there. But it's always amazing to me, these instances where there are these moments of collaboration between civilians and police that result in these outcomes that are good.
Do you guys think AI is going to solve crimes a lot more often in the future? There's like Crime Owl, that software. It's really being talked about a lot more in the media.
eSleuth AI is another big one. I think that it sounds like there is, or at least one big case and probably 2 big cases that may be getting close to resolution.
I've been hearing the JonBenet Ramsey case has had some AI stuff.
Jennifer Cassie.
Done. Yeah.
Jennifer Cassie's had some.
Yeah.
And when you're using AI too, just to pick through a large file, the case that I'm going to talk about here coming up in a few, I know I've talked with the detectives, and one of the things that they've told me is that, when he was, his name's A.Z. Williams, and when he was assigned the case, he wasn't able to read through the entire file because, like we're saying, he had other cases assigned to him. So the only thing that he was doing is following up on the leads that were coming in the very current leads. And I do think that is something where AI can come in and say, like, okay, let's say that you have a brown pickup as a suspect vehicle. You tell AI to pick out every file that has brown pickup truck. And that way, at least you're narrowing, making your time more efficient than having to read through file after file after file.
Yeah, particularly in like matching and building connections
Right.
between cases. But one of the things that I think is, and I think there are people who are pushing like the idea of dump all your case files into sort of like the proprietary, law enforcement, whatever it is, SharePoint or database, depends on how you're running it and operating it. But one of the things that I've done on one particular case, it's the Ashley Loring Heavy Runner case. I have taken an internal AI that only looks at the files that I have. Then it looks externally too in different sequences, and it lets me weigh the information. Like if it's a news report from these publications, you give it this weight. If it's from this publication, give it this weight. If it's something that I actually got in an interview with somebody, give it this weight. And you're able to weigh probabilities as well too. So, what I can run something. Okay, so here are the circumstances. What are the statistics on these circumstances? Run a, Bayesian calculation to tell me the probability of X, Y, or Z. And there I have it. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I have to fight back with AI when it's not making sense. And I'm like, your math is wrong. But, it can be a really powerful way to sort of explore probabilities.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you combine that with having, someone like Julia Cowie, who is on the show, that show's going to air in a few weeks,
Cool.
Former FBI behavioral analysis unit member. When you've got someone like that who could plug in those parameters of saying, these are the things that we're looking for, and you've got the technology, I think that solves a lot of cases.
Yeah, it all comes down to being able to ask the right question, right?
Right.
Like knowing the question to ask. And also, I think a piece of it is knowing when you're getting a bad output. Like if you know something well enough, you're like, I'm not so sure that's right. My favorite AI story is this large language model AI where someone asked, I think they uploaded a picture. They were like, are these berries safe to eat? And AI was like, of course these berries are safe to eat. And the person wrote back, the berries are not safe to eat. They're actually poisonous and I'm very sick. And the LLM replied, oh, you're right. They are poisonous. I'm sorry. So, one of the...
Kelli, has that ever happened to you
Yes.
with mushrooms?
That's exactly what I was going to say. You guys have gotten to know me so well. Last time I went mushroom foraging, I found a new mushroom that I had not found so far. And I was pretty sure they were puffballs, little tiny baby puffballs. I was like so sure, but I put it in AI and they were like, those are puffballs. And I was like, are they? I think they are. I ate them anyway, and I was fine. So,
what is that whole saying, Kelli, about runners, about the adventurous ones versus older? I don't remember, but do you know what I'm talking about? There are adventurous mushroom hunters and there's old mushroom hunters, but something about
but they're alive. The adventurous ones are dead. Yeah.
Can I give you a pro tip for AI? Like someone needs to make a mean AI at some point, like a very blunt AI. But a pro tip for searching for AI is that the LLM, in the way you ask your question, is trying to detect what answer you want.
It is. I've noticed that as well.
So
I put all my relationship problems through AI and it only says what I want to hear.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out because it's loaded into our questions, right?
Yeah.
Like our presumption and what we start with. And so I've had fun with AI where I will reverse the presumption of my question. Isn't it really brilliant that ruling the Supreme Court gave in one window? And I'll get this whole thing about how brilliant it is. I'm like, that Supreme Court ruling is so contradictory and stupid. And I'll get the whole upstart. I'm like, cute.
You're like, you're right. I'm so sorry I said that. Wow.
You don't just use it to like make funny pictures or anything like that?
No, I do not. I like that one.
That looks very realistic.
It's very frightening.
So realistic.
I think the pipe is very detailed.
I like it. I like it. It's well done.
I love it.
Oh. Well, Kelli, since you've got a glass of wine in your hand and
Very
I already
fitting.
know what yours is about, why don't you kick us off with the next one?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the wine is very fitting for my case. Tonight, I brought you the most Thanksgiving-y crime I could find while keeping things a little fun and lighthearted because I'm kind of tired of murder. I don't know. Thanksgiving's around the corner and I'm just like
Yeah.
over it for right now. But yeah, so Thanksgiving night 2013, it's in Seattle. While the rest of the city's passed out in a food coma, two plumbers, Samuel Harris, 35 years old, and Luke Thiesing, 36, are pulling off the most ridiculous wine heist that you've probably actually never heard of. They decided to break into a climate-controlled facility, Esquin Wine Storage in Seattle. It was full of expensive, rare wine. And these guys, they didn't just grab a couple bottles. They stole 200 cases worth $650,000 almost. So we're talking first growth Bordeaux's, Colt California Cabernets, all this stuff that costs probably more than a lot of people's mortgage payment every month. So, and they had been planning for several months, which is funny because it didn't work out so well despite all of their planning. Jayson, did you? Oh, okay. So yeah, they even rented their own lockers at this storage facility a couple months earlier so they could case the place. And they learned where all the cameras were located and how the facility did its business and everything. And they even had a spiral notebook where they took notes. And in his own handwriting, it said the plan on the front of the notebook. I just thought that was so funny.
A very Rex Heuermann Long Island serial
That's what I
killer.
was about to
Yep.
say. Why don't you just leave that out somewhere?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
the plan. And they had also printed step-by-step instructions and shopping lists of things to buy at Lowe's that they needed. One of their printouts was called How to Commit the Perfect Crime. That's one thing they printed. Another one was, Is it accidental fire or arson? They printed that article. So they were about to find out. So Thanksgiving was the perfect night to do this, or perfect day to do this. The streets were empty. There was no staff at the facility. So they rented two white vans and they parked them in an area that would be blocking the cameras. They took spray paint and they spray painted all the lenses of the cameras, covered the motion sensors with black plastic. And then they spent the next 13 hours inside, sawing holes through the drywall, moving back and forth between the storage lockers, filling the vans, and then they were transporting their score over to another facility that they rented about a mile down the road. So they picked the best quality stuff and they left the rest. So 9 rounds into this, 9 trips, they were shuttling their wine back and forth. The sun started to come out then after 13 hours. It was morning. But Harris had one last thing to do. So he climbed up and he cut the gas lines to the facility and he tried to blow the whole building up, but it didn't work. He did not blow it up. So it was just a big giant gas leak and they were like, okay, let's get out of here. So they walked out to the parking lot. And they took their masks off and they looked around and their vans were gone. So, and they were like, what is going on? Well, the vans had been towed by the city for street cleaning that morning. And they looked around and panic set in and they looked over and they realized, oh, it's a tow zone. They were parked in a towaway zone.
Was that not written down on their plan?
It was not
Okay.
that part. They missed that minor detail.
Better recon, man.
Yeah.
Better recon.
Don't park in a towaway zone.
Yes. So they sprinted down the street to their black Cadillac Escalade that they'd parked just in case. And they brought it around and they filled it with whatever wine they could still fit in. They did not realize, though, as they were pulling away, one of the cameras they didn't see had captured the whole thing. Clear pictures of their unmasked faces and their license plate on the Escalade. So The next morning, a manager comes into the facility, and obviously the place is just reeking of natural gas. He calls 911. The firefighters come in, and they see pretty quickly there's been a burglary, and sees all the damage that's been done. And so the owner, Chuck Lefebvre, he looked over the surveillance cameras because they didn't get all of them. They thought they got all of them, but they did not. And he saw and noticed really quickly Harris, his face, because he recognized him from renting a storage facility casing the place a month before. Okay, so he goes back to the records, and Harris had actually put his real home address on his application. So they went straight to his house and found him really quickly. They had a warrant and everything, and they looked and they found the notebook that said the plan. They found the arson printouts. They also found an empty bottle of champagne, expensive champagne that they had stolen. They started celebrating a little bit too early. So a day later, they raided the rented warehouse and a mile away, and they found every single case that was stolen sitting there in perfect temperature controlled, pristine condition. And both guys pled guilty right away. They didn't argue. They knew there was no contest there. Harris got 9 years. Thiesing got 5 years. And all the wine happily went back to the owners, including a woman who had been saving a bottle for her son's 21st birthday. So that's a happy ending. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have had a question.
Yeah.
What was the brilliant plan to do with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of wine? Because just short of being a very serious alcoholic, or that being a $600,000 bottle of wine and it just being one bottle, what do you do? What is the game plan?
I wondered that too, because like in an art heist, how do you sell the art afterwards?
Crush it or
marked,
right?
basically. Yeah, they had a buyer lined up, because actually Harris, they didn't realize this until after the fact, but he had committed a similar wine heist for $250,000 in another city a couple years before that. They just didn't tie him to that. And he actually successfully sold the wine to a dealer. I don't know how they would not know that's like a stolen bottle of wine, though. I don't know how they handle those details of getting away with it, but he did get away with it before. So he had kind of like buyers lined up, but
would you be celebrating with
wild.
a glass of champagne if your van got towed that was filled with?
See, they're dumb. They're just really dumb.
That's always,
Yeah. But yeah, Thiesing got 5 years. Harris got 9, and he got 9 also because of that previous heist that he did in the other location. So they figured that all out. And yeah, it's pretty much a happy ending, but I did try to find information on these guys and where are they now? And I could not find anything online. So they would have gotten out a few years ago, and unless they've done something similar, they should be out free. So yeah, that's the wine heist. Cheers to that. My legally obtained wine.
Yes.
And if they happen to be listening right now, Santana True Crime would love to talk with them, to have them as a guest on the show.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Bring it on. I really want to.
I've talked to jewel thieves before, and people have done things and now are like rehabilitated and living a normal life. Actually, there were people I've talked to have done like big heists like that. They have been pretty normal. They seem pretty normal. And these guys are just plumbers. So I'm like, I would love to talk to them.
There's something about that contrast that's really interesting. Because for some reason, stereotypically, and maybe this is just from movies and books I've read, I imagine people that are engaging in like an art heist or in this case, like a valuable wine heist, that they're somehow like more sophisticated, like criminals, not necessarily in terms of their plan, but they maybe have like refined taste, because who would come up with this idea to begin with? Right. But it sounds like they're like one step away from being the wet bandits in Home Alone with the calling part of like, let's blow this place up on the way out and essentially poison themselves where they have to take off their mask and get exposed on camera. It's is that kind of tension between like these like working class guys who have this idea of like heisting not their local liquor store, but really high priced wine is it defies the stereotype, right?
See,
I-
that I
yeah.
could be down with. Heisting the giant wine warehouse and handing out the bottles across town, I could be down with that. The whole Robin Hood thing, I could totally.
Yeah, I think Harris, I think he got a taste of that fine like luxury life because he built a wine cellar in a previous client's home and saw how much this stuff was worth. That was his previous crime. So I think he was like, there's a lot of money to be made here with these wealthy people with all this wine. And I think he got kind of like a taste for that. So yeah.
That's neat. I like
Yeah,
it.
I wish. Is there pictures of the plan posted online somewhere?
That's so
Yeah,
great.
I think
would love to see
there
that.
was a picture of the notebook that said the plan on it, but I didn't know if it was AI or real, so I didn't include that one. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
I feel like there's like some like stick figures and drawings in this book of plan in there somewhere as
Yeah.
well.
I would love to see the plan notebook and see like if it's misspelled or what it
This has Netflix documentary all over it, you know?
Right.
It was
Surprised to see this.
they did a lot of homework though.
Clearly,
Yeah.
like it was pretty well thought out, except
It was.
for
They had a
yeah.
shopping list. They knew like which ones to grab from the lockers and stuff, or which ones were like going to be high dollar wines. So
What's
the
that
wine I'm
thing-
drinking is from a box, by the way, right
Perfect.
now.
What's that thing cops always say that criminals have to be what is it? Oh,
Right all the
criminals
time.
have to be right all the time, or they have to be perfect. We just have to be lucky once, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
feel
but
like
with
that's
guys
a problem.
like this,
Yeah.
it's like this reminds me of the guy that robbed a bank in downtown Raleigh with a note, but he was so used to, every time he went to a bank, he provided his driver's license. So what did he do? He provided
It did
his driver's
automatic.
license. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, they called us and they're like laughing.
They're like, we
And,
just had a robbery. Funny
Yeah.
part is the guy gave us his name, address,
Yeah.
ID number. Well,
yeah.
yeah. But there are just so many things that can go wrong in anything, much less a crime. But like, if they had not tried to cut that gas line, I think they could have been in the relative clear, right? Relative clear.
Well, if they didn't park in the towaway zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the towaway zone you could have recovered from.
You could have.
All you have to do is beat the police report, right? You have to get to the towaway lot before the police report gets there.
Exactly. Because they could have said, oh, yeah, we're wine dealers. Or so they could have come up with a story for a tow impound lot worker. Like they could have.
Right.
They
Because
could have
like
pulled the wool over them. I think.
right. Is the tow impound locker or person really even going to care or pay attention to what's
No,
in
they
there?
don't care. They just want their $200 to get the car back and then be on your way. But yeah, I think it was that gas line because obviously they had to call 911 and then they quickly see the crime scene and then they have to look at the surveillance cameras and everything. I think that's that dumb. Yeah.
Well,
I
and
mean,
take
they
off
were
their
trying to-
masks because of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what really got them.
And as plumbers, this is like one of their areas of expertise too, at least having some knowledge of how pipes and these types of
Because you think if anybody could blow up a building, it would be the plumber.
Yeah.
They thought that was going to happen, but I think it's harder than you think to like hit a gas line and light
another
things on
thing
fire.
to be thankful for.
Yeah. Yes, because that could have like blown up
a block, right?
and then people would have died. So that would not.
And I don't know if that's a wisest part of the plan because that would have gotten some attention. buildings blowing up tend to get some response, I've found.
That's a little more than 5 to 9 years prison time then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wonder if how many of those years they actually did.
Yeah, I
too.
wonder too. It was like
Right.
really hard to find more information after the initial like, okay, sentencing, boom, gone. No one
But that
was really
is a
talking
good
about
feel good story. I'm glad that you
it. Yeah.
added that one in because
I
mine
needed
is
it.
kind of depressing.
Oh,
I'm sure
we should-
Jason has something depressing for us.
I'm sure.
Depends
Jason
on
has
how you
something.
look at it, buddy.
I've
Depends
got
on
a
how you look at
5-year-old
it.
that was murdered. Can you
Okay.
trump
Mm.
that?
5-year-old was murdered? Depends on why. Was there a really good reason? No.
No, we're gonna have to put some
Canceled.
numbers on these
I
now.
am canceled. I am
Yeah.
canceled.
Jason is canceled.
Do you want me to go next? I can do
Sure.
mine.
Go ahead.
Okay. So instead of hearing me give an essay on what the first Thanksgiving was really about, colonization, loss, oppression, as opposed to like what we celebrate, which is unity and gratitude, and how it should probably be a day of like mourning instead of a holiday. This is a true crime show, so I will actually give you a crime. And so the crime I'm going to give you is Jermaine Charlo. She's a 23-year-old woman from the Confederate, Salish, and Katuna tribes that live on the Flathead Reservation in Montana. She vanished in the early morning hours of June 16th, 2018. This was about 1 year after 20-year-old Ashley Loring Heavy Runner disappeared on the other side of the Rocky Mountains on the Blackfeet Reservation. So Jermaine lived on the Flathead Reservation about 40 miles north of Missoula. I got to go there this summer. It was neat. It was glorious. It was beautiful. But I did go to a number of locations in Jermaine's story. So on June 9th, about a week before she went missing, Jermaine changes her Facebook status to quote, in a relationship, but doesn't reveal with whom. In hindsight, it appears that she was referring to a man named Jacob Love. So Jermaine grew up with a lot of instability in her life at home and went through periods of like living with different relatives and was sort of getting to a point where life was turning around a little bit right now. She and a man named Michael DeFrance had this long, rocky relationship. He was her ex-boyfriend. He was the father of her 2 children. And he had been arrested at least twice for domestic violence against her. And so, DeFrance was convicted of beating Jermaine when she was 17 years old. There were also allegations that he threw her to the ground when she was 8.5 months pregnant, and that he pushed her out of a moving vehicle, and that her phone had been destroyed more than once during their arguments. And despite breaking up, they remained intertwined because of their children and the fact that they lived so close to each other. So on June 14th, Jermaine and DeFrance attend a monster truck rally with each other. After the rally, Jermaine asks DeFrance to drop her off at the Orange Street Food Farm, which is this grocery store in downtown Missoula. So soon after, she's seen by her new boyfriend, Jacob, running down an alley in Missoula because he lived right by this grocery store, running down this alley toward his apartment. And according to Jacob, what Jermaine told her was that DeFrance was yelling at her, asking her if she had a boyfriend, and telling her that he really wanted to get back into a relationship with her. So Jermaine tells Jacob that she's keeping her relationship with him secret from DeFrance, an event that will become important later. So the next night on June 15th, Jermaine went out in Missoula with DeFrance. On that night, before she disappeared, Jermaine and DeFrance went to several bars downtown. The police say that the surveillance videos showed Jermaine seemed to be sort of like social and confident that night, like easily moving among different groups of people. She didn't appear intoxicated or distressed. There were like moments where she was like occupied on her phone, which had previously been like a point of contention between her and DeFrance. And according to witness accounts and video, they were seen at this bar called the Dark Horse Bar, a little bit southwest of downtown Missoula around 10 p.m. Then they went to the Golden Rose and the Badlander, which are two bars and clubs that are in the same building downtown. Witnesses said that Jermaine was like playing pool, dancing, having fun. And the bartender would later tell the police that Jermaine seemed more interested in her phone, while DeFrance seemed like way more focused on talking to Jermaine or being chatty, I guess. The bartender said that he didn't feel like either of them were intoxicated. So the two of them are caught on surveillance with several groups of people in an alley behind the Barlander that night. Jermaine continues to be much more social, floating between groups of people, while DeFrance sort of like, is less social, standing nearby, not talking that much. And at one point, he starts walking away without her, but he was her ride. So Jermaine's last text is at 11:52 p.m., and it went to her new boyfriend, Jacob. So witnesses later report seeing Jermaine between midnight and 1 a.m. between Russell and Orange Street. So back to near where the grocery store was. And so that's back on the south side in Missoula of the Clark Fork River. And it's, the downtown is north of the river. The rest of town is sort of south of it, or not the rest of it, but a big chunk of it. And so she's closer to where the night had originally started, and then she vanishes, is never seen again. So when Jermaine doesn't show up at home and her social media goes silent, the police consider a lot of possibilities, including whether she had been the victim of human trafficking. The Missoula Police Department's investigation begins the day Jermaine's aunt reports her niece missing. However, the first detective assigned was about to go on vacation, so only worked the case briefly before he had his scheduled time off. So it wasn't until June 26th, so we're talking 10 days later, that a detective named Guy Baker is assigned to the case. And he would lead the case for years to figure out what happened. The next day, Detective Baker files for and receives a search warrant for her Verizon Wireless records. And it shows that Jermaine's phone was last located 3.6 miles northeast of DeFrance's home between 2 a.m. and 10 a.m. on June 16th. So that's after she went missing. So location records also put DeFrance's phone nearby as well. And so it's an area, and you can see it for those of you who are watching, it's an area known as Airvo Hill. And it's a really rugged, heavy forested area that's north of Missoula. But DeFrance had a story to tell. He told investigators that he dropped Jermaine off in Missoula, which begged the obvious question, why was her phone pinging north of the city hours later? And at that point, DeFrance said Jermaine left her cell phone and it was with him. He told them that he had attempted to go through her cell phone, but was unable to unlock it. He then told investigators that 2 days after Jermaine disappeared, and what might be the most suspicious thing I've ever heard a suspect say, he said he discarded Jermaine's phone in Idaho at mile marker 94 on Highway 12, about like 3 miles east of the Nez Perce Reservation. So just to give you an idea, this is nowhere near where DeFrance said he dropped her off or DeFrance's home. It's about 141 miles away from where he said he dropped her off. So just off another reservation in Idaho. So law enforcement searched the area. They were never able to find the phone. On the same day that the cell phone data is obtained, investigators go to DeFrance's family property. And a really important thing happens there because DeFrance's mother tells the officer Jermaine has never been to the residence. What she doesn't know is they already have the cell phone data. So that becomes another piece of it. So in August, the police obtain her financial records as well. It's around this time that they first get a chance to interview Jacob, and they hear that whole story about Jermaine's concerns about DeFrance finding out about their relationship. And the police were able to obtain another search warrant. And this was to visually observe and record the ground and the air any time of day and night, the outside of the premises, all around the DeFrance home. They also were able to get permission to do thermal imaging of the property. Later, they'll bring out dogs as well. They've never really confirmed fully the results of that search, although they do talk a little bit about a later search. So over the years, several theories have emerged. The police have explored human trafficking because I-90, which runs through Montana, is a big drug trafficking and human trafficking space. But, the lack of evidence, Jermaine's personality, her social connections, lack of substance abuse, all that stuff made her a less likely target. A tip came in at one point that a woman had been killed in a drug deal on the Flathead Reservation. Police investigated, found no real evidence linking it to Jermaine to drug activity or the individuals who were said to be involved. But then something stuck in investigators' craw. They started talking to Jermaine's family a little bit more, and they realized that DeFrance had told them that he had dropped Jermaine off at an intersection in Missoula, them as in the police. But he had told their family a different story, that he had dropped her 8 blocks away at the Orange Street Food Farm, the place that she had been dropped off the previous night. Having been there, this is not an easy mistake to make. These are some long blocks. You can imagine going through 7 lights, you're probably not going to mistake, where you drop somebody off in a moment like that. So in October, the police and the FBI, along with the cadaver dogs, they now know the stuff about Jacob. They now know the discrepancies in the stories. They're able to get another search warrant. They go out there with the cadaver dogs, conduct another search. Several items are found with blood on them. Turned over to the crime lab, which finds the blood to be inconclusive as to whether it belonged to Jermaine. But the police also found and seized a bunch of guns. And because DeFrance had a prior conviction for domestic violence that at the time prohibited him from owning firearms, it was a 2013 conviction for a partner and family member assault against Jermaine. He was arrested, charged by federal authorities. In July of 2021, DeFrance is indicted. They weren't able to get him for Jermaine's disappearance or murder. But in 2023, DeFrance was convicted for illegally possessing firearms, and he received a federal prison sentence. But because there are no happy endings in this world, I'm kidding, there are, but just this is not one of them. The Supreme Court of these here United States, following its long tradition of ignoring anything that's practical, in a case called New York State, I think it was 2022 ruling, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, the court ruled that modern firearms restrictions had to be consistent with the ones that we had back when we only had muskets. So in January of this year, because of that and some other rulings, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, another court that seemingly lost all common sense lately, ruled that Montana's domestic violence law was too broad and that in terms of its firearms ban. So essentially the Supreme Court had ruled that you could arrest violent convicted domestic abusers for possessing firearms. But since the Montana law included other offenses that were not violent, it was invalidated completely. So it's kind of crazy, right? So it's really about the category. Because Montana built things related to domestic violence that were not related to violence, everything, even incidents where violence were involved, those convictions had to be thrown out. And you might ask yourself, like, why do we have this historic precedence rule, given the fact that, there were only newspapers at the founding, and yet TV stations have protected First Amendment free speech rights. We only had muskets at the founding, not automatic weapons, but automatic weapons are protected by the Second Amendment. I wish I had an answer for you, because there isn't a good one other than selective application of originalism. So just to be clear, DeFrance's actual conduct was violent, but because Montana's law covers both those violent and nonviolent crimes, It got tossed. The Ninth Circuit even admitted in its ruling that it was an, quote, absurd result. So my message for today is happy Thanksgiving. I concur with the Ninth Circuit, but I will be more expansive in my concurrence by saying the United States can just be absurd sometimes. And if anyone has information about this case, please call the Missoula Police Department at 406-396-3217.
That's such an interesting case, and you're absolutely right as far as the language matters so much in those laws, and I don't think a lot of people think about that. You know, those are things that lawyers pick apart. You know, they mess up a word or add a word in somewhere, and that, you know, ends up with results like this.
Or you build a law during a certain time where it would be perfectly fine, and then over time, because of other rulings, it can just slip off the track. But I just wanted to celebrate the absurdity of America and also bring an Indigenous case. You know, for me, I've always like mildly been uncomfortable celebrating Thanksgiving, and it's huge in my family. It is a big, giant event, but every Thanksgiving morning, I take some time just sort of like as a day of mourning, because I know for the natives who are on the other side of the Thanksgiving equation, the result was not as good as it was for the rest of us. So I just take a moment to appreciate that every morning, and that's the way I get my balance for it, and then go eat a lot of miscellaneous wild things. Turkey.
I don't even think of Thanksgiving. I mean, I should think about the origin of
The first
more.
Thanksgiving?
Yes, I need to do that. It's become for me like a day about thanks and gratitude, I guess, which is not how it started, but that's kind of what it's morphed into.
I got a great way for you to do it. You can go, I am really grateful I am not Indigenous, and it's 1800.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, whoa. But so
I'm really grateful. I'm gonna make that into a YouTube short, by the way.
Yeah, that's
Jason's prayer.
Yeah, it's a prayer.
I'm really grateful I'm not Indigenous.
Well, if you want me to flip it to the positive side, if you know, thinking about Indigenous people, or thinking about Black people, or thinking about the Irish who came over, or you know, we were all immigrants at one point, and our ancestors and relatives traveled across seas, fought wars, did all sorts of things that they survived. I do have gratitude, and I think this applies to the Indigenous people in an acute way, but to everyone more broadly, for the resilience of our ancestors, because it is a miracle any one of us is here. It is a miracle, not just a miracle that we're together, but there is somewhere along the way that one of our ancestors should have gotten knocked off a cliff or died in a war or something else. And so I am really grateful for the resilience of all people, including the Indigenous people. And, you know, I'm grateful that we're here because life is ultimately a gift. And, you know, I can have gratitude in that too, in both ways. So.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Thanksgiving has turned into like pre-Christmas.
It is.
It is Christmas. It's already Christmas. We just take a break on one day.
The Christmas tree.
Thanks.
There is a 5-story Christmas tree in my neighborhood. Don't ask. It has been up for 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I meant Christmas stuff started to come into Home Depot during Halloween.
It was
before Halloween was over, actually.
My Walmart, my local Walmart, the Christmas stuff was up before Halloween. It was up in like September, I think.
Guess who on this call is the last person to guess who's buying his Christmas presents like yeah.
This guy.
I am the last minute guy. So what I do is around this time, I buy all the presents for the kids. So like the little ones get them, right? You know, like anybody who's like 7, 8, whatever. I bought your present already. The adults, it's like, oh Lord, the stores are only open 2 hours
Well, the liquor store is open 24/7.
That is true. That is true. ABC.
Convenience
ABC
store
gives
has anything an adult
wine
needs.
bottles, right?
Wa-
That is
Yeah.
also
some
true.
wine,
Yeah.
a tall boy, lottery
Yeah, tall
tickets.
boy, lottery
What else?
tickets. Yes.
Lottery tickets are great.
Some sort
Yeah.
of cheese.
Some sort of cheese.
Yes, always some sort of cheese.
A
That's a good
summer
point.
sausage thrown in
Yep.
there.
Summer
Something,
sausage, I was
something
about
with
to
an
say, yeah.
Advil,
eagle.
Tylenol.
That feels
There's always
tough,
something
yeah.
with an eagle or an American flag
Yes,
on it.
yes. My bottle opener. Yeah.
There you go.
The Advil Tylenol is really good, though. We Cameron and I have some personal experience with that kind of gift as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the traditional stuff that shows up in stockings in our family.
Stockings at your house.
Yeah. It's all stuff like that. All right, so I think that there's a good balance here in this show. We started off with the wine. We had a feel-good story. And now we've got another story from a Native American tribe, from the Lumbee Indian tribe in North Carolina, which is where I'm at. And it is the cold case of Brittany Lynn Locklear, who is 5 years old. And the reason why I chose this is because I've already interviewed one of the investigators with the SBI in North Carolina, the State Bureau of Investigation. And I remember when it happened and it drew my attention. And I think that I just want to show you a picture, but this is who was murdered. And whether she's Lumbee or white or black, I think we can all agree that that's a tragedy, and that, this is one that should be solved and more resources need to be put behind it. But I know it's got a lot of complications, and we're going to go through there. But let's start with the breakdown of what happened. So on the morning of January 7th, 1998, this is in Hoke County, North Carolina. So it's a very rural area in eastern North Carolina. Around 6:30 a.m., we know that Brittany's mom, Connie, wakes up and gets her daughter dressed. And she puts on a green and white t-shirt, green denim coveralls, and she's got green and pink tennis shoes and a little Red Riding Hood coat, which Brittany, she was about 3'10", and her nickname was Little Brittany. So it's kind of fitting that she's got the little Red Riding Hood coat on. And just before 7 a.m., Connie and Brittany, they walk to the bus stop. Now, again, this is a rural area in North Carolina. It's a bunch of farmland, and the bus stop is located right in front of their house. So they walk about 500 feet to the street, and they've got another neighbor that's about 200 yards from them. And every day the bus would come and pick Brittany up. Well, they're standing at the stop and waiting for the bus, and Connie has to go to the bathroom. And it's one of those times where she's holding it and she's holding it, and she doesn't think she can hold it anymore. And she decides to run back into the house to go to the bathroom. And so she does that. And she said she was in the bathroom for about 2 minutes. And when she came out, Brittany was gone. Well, she was thinking, okay, the bus came and picked her up. Well, shortly after that, some neighbors came running up, and they're banging on the door, and they're saying that Brittany's gone, someone took her. And they described that a brown pickup truck, which the color has changed throughout the years, drove at a high rate of speed down this country road, stopped in front of where Brittany was standing, and threw her into the car. And again, she's about 3'10", 50 pounds, so not a hard feat to do, and speeds off. Brittany's mom doesn't even believe this at first. She thinks, okay, this couldn't have happened. And so her first thought is to go to the school. And so she drives to the school, and then that's when they realize that Brittany never got on that bus that day. So the police are called, and they get a couple of agencies, one of them being the Hoke County Sheriff's Department, and they start to do a canvas search throughout the area. And one of the areas that they end up searching is a large, it's basically like a big cornfield. And in the field, there are these roads that were cut that were used for the tractors and farm equipment to, move the vehicles. That way you're not running over the crops. And that night, they find Brittany in a drainage ditch, and she's nude, and they, of course, try to lock down the crime scene. And then as they're searching, they find Brittany's clothes that are strewn around the road. And that's another detail that comes back, because it had been reported for decades, and this is what made this case interesting to me, that they had DNA in the case. So as the decades have gone by, that's one of those cases I thought would be solved through DNA. Well, talking with my friend who's with the SBI, A.Z. Williams, who's the chief of police in Wilson's Mills, he said that it wasn't actual DNA that they got from her body. He told me there's an item on the side of the road that they believe that the suspect actually threw out. And so, when you read about this case today, when you see DNA, I think that's the big confusion in it. What complicated this even more is, so this is a big case in Hoke County and for the eastern North Carolina area to begin with. And the Lumbee tribe is very close. And so everyone's trying to help. And so the sheriff actually makes a statement and says, look, if you're driving a brown pickup truck, prepare to be stopped, because, we're going to question everyone. And they do that. And I think that the effort in it is, there. And like we're saying with the AI and with these cold cases, sometimes you can investigate, and nothing happens. But this is where it starts to get really frustrating. So we've got this, this case that's not solved, but then politics start to come in when there's a new sheriff election, and Brittany's case becomes kind of the point of contention. Everyone wants to say that they can solve this case, and so Jim Davis, who comes in 2002, he actually says that the previous sheriff intentionally misdirected and diluted the investigation, and that he was going to ask the U.S. Department of Justice to look into the case for corruption and political motives. And so, you've got this dynamic where Brittany is being used as a political pawn, and you've got a community that's mourning, that's doing everything they can. And then in 2003, they actually get a promising break in the case. A guy named Keith Laundrie, who is a former Fort Bragg civilian firefighter, was arrested for robbing a bank. And he's wearing a chemical suit while he was wearing it, which is kind of odd. But they go to search his locker at Fort Bragg, and they find newspaper clippings of Brittany in his locker. And this is in August of 2003. So 5 years later, you've got a grown man with a little girl's picture in his locker. I find that very odd. This is a problem that I have. So they compare his DNA to the DNA that they have, and I don't know if they've actually ruled him out, but what's been publicly stated is that he's been ruled out of being a suspect. But since then, no real leads have came in. And I'm convinced that the item that they found on the side of the road did not come from the suspect. I think that they are making that assumption based on, that the item was very common and found near our clothes. I think what needs to be done is what we talked about before, where someone needs to review this entire case file, and we need to start coming up with more ideas instead of just, waiting for someone to come forward. This is a tiny department that's investigating this case. And when I was having a conversation with Julia Kelli on the show afterwards, this is one of the cases I brought to her attention, was that I feel like they need someone with that type of expertise to be able to review this case, with some fresh eyes and be able to point some people in the right direction. I'm hoping that, eventually, if someone was actually, able to go through this entire case file and, with new technology, my hope is that this is solvable. I definitely think it is. And personally, I don't see of why Keith Laundrie is not, why they're not doing more with him, because that seems very odd.
And Keith Laundrie's deceased now as well, which is another kind of twist in this whole thing. He's buried in Virginia, actually. I don't think too far from Jason's area.
But don't that just, I don't know. It makes my skin crawl that, and I know what the item is. I'm not going to say it, but it's something that's very common and that a lot of people would throw out of their cars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so frustrating, is that I think that when people do these searches too, they're not taking into consideration that this is a crime scene that you're walking through. Mm-hmm. And I heard the same thing about Delphi, where people were, when they're trying to, find the girls, that they were throwing their cigarette butts out, that, guys had to go to the bathroom, which of course you go to the bathroom, but you're contaminating the crime scene. And I really feel that either that item was already there, or this is something that was discarded by a search member. And I seriously doubt that at this point it's the suspects. And the other problem with this case is the guy that actually did the autopsy. Brian can give you some information on this, but he's been sued multiple times for not providing the proper cause of death.
Just speeding through it, or what's his incentive to, or why?
So he was an intern at the time in pathology at UNC Chapel Hill Medical School, and was doing his residency, and was assigned to, I believe he was working with Hoke and Robeson County as a kind of assistant medical examiner. He was placed in charge of the autopsy for Brittany Locklear, but after he eventually finished his residency a few years later, he would go to Idaho. And in Idaho, a number of cases, I think it's up to 20 cases now, had to be retried, and sentences were turned over because of just gross incompetence. His medical license was actually stripped, and he was disciplined in that way. There was one instance in which he ruled someone had died of natural causes where they had actually been poisoned. There was another instance where someone was shot in the head, but he didn't notice the bullet. It was a small caliber bullet. He ruled it was it was just like completely incompetent. He still lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina right now, and offers his services on LinkedIn as a consultant, but he's not able to practice medicine directly. And so I tried to actually the other year to get copies of his disciplinary hearing notes, the minutes from that, but the state of Idaho keeps those confidential when they discipline people that are licensed to practice medicine. So I like the stuff that's come out publicly just through trial has been disturbing enough, but he is not practicing at all anymore, and just for the level of gross incompetence. And this was one of his early cases. Now, her cause of death, I don't think is necessarily in real question in this particular case, but I think one of the things that's frustrating about Locklear's case is that it does seem to be a perfect storm of different things. In addition to him, if you look at the medical examiner's report of the 3 people that are in the room during the medical examination, during the autopsy, one of them was an FBI agent who was also investigated by the Department of Justice in North Carolina for potentially just incompetence in other investigations that she was tied to. So it's like years later. So it's just one of those things that it just feels like things just add up and add up. The politics that Cameron mentioned.
And a bad ME too can result in poor, not just the cause of death, but evidence collection happens there too.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people, I know I keep on saying this, but I'll say it again, appreciate of how different it is when you've got a large agency that has a homicide unit and has, you know, whether you call it CCBI or whatever, evidence technicians to process a scene. And when you've got the manpower there and you've got leadership that knows how to use resources properly, compared to a case like this where, I mean, from what I've heard, it is the person who's assigned this case right now does not have a lot of experience in it. They're a former school resource officer. And, you know, I'm not trying to pick on them, but I'm just saying that whether you look at her case or you look at Ashley
Lauren
case, it's kind of the same thing where they're very complex cases. They need lots of resources to be able to solve them.
And you benefit from experience. Not to say that somebody with less experience couldn't close one of these cases, but you definitely benefit from experience.
Right. Well, you definitely need the time to actually put into this. This is not one that you can just sit around and do a review on every year and go, yep, nothing new has come in, check a box and go to the, you know, the other thousands that are assigned to you. This needs, cases like this would require someone that is dedicated solely to starting from square one and going through each statement and each piece of evidence. And then,
do we know more, by the way, about the suspect?
So he had robbed that bank in Carthage, South Carolina that Cameron had mentioned, or was it North Carolina? I can't remember.
It was North Carolina.
It was North Carolina. Okay, North Carolina. But no, there's not a whole lot that's been. I mean, he still has family in Virginia, today that's around. He's deceased now, but he was a civilian firefighter. And one of the things that was weird was that, as Cameron mentioned, that he had no criminal record whatsoever, not even a traffic ticket, and then just decides to rob a bank, which seemed really random and out of character. And the stuff connected to him and his locker popped up. But one of the interesting things about this,
how old was he when he robbed the bank?
I want to say he was like 38. I could be wrong.
So he was a little bit older, even for.
I might be wrong though, Cameron.
I can find that out, but
it was older than 21, 22.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things one of the questions we asked was he actually a part of the search for Brittany Locklear brought in people. Fort Bragg isn't that far away, and it brought in a lot of different people. And is it possible that he was just someone who was also, a lot of people really cared about this case and came from neighboring counties to try to help out? And I believe that when Cameron had A.Z. Williams on, who worked the case for the SBI, we had asked him that, and he said something to the fact, like, you know, he wasn't sure if he was a part of the original search or not. Did they likely have records of the people that were volunteering? But like, they're just, the case file was enormous. And that was one of the points that he had made a point, because there were so many leads, so much there. And one of the things that shocked me and still bothers me about this one is that the investigators that do come onto it, they openly will tell you they're not going back and reading the entire file. They're just starting, and I just feel like because there was so much interest from the community and people were calling in everything because they were so scattershot, there has to be something
Almost
in
always it's in the first week or two. There's like some big clue, even if it's a
Well,
sign.
and
But you know what? This guy also, the first thing that came to mind when you said this guy, my brain sort of went to when cases like this happen close to people, there is a group of people who get obsessed with the cases and
Yeah.
collect everything on it. If you guys remember the guy in the John Benet Ramsey case who's talking about like having a gift from her that
Is
John
that
Benet had
Gary
given him.
Oliva?
Yeah. Well, no,
Or no,
was that him? I think it
I
was a
don't.
different guy,
Okay.
but he was the one. The one I'm thinking about was the one who
Santa
was like,
Bill?
no, not Santa Bill. This is a totally different guy who was going to have his ashes
Okay.
sprinkled with the gift that
Wow.
she gave him. People get obsessed with these
Oh, yeah.
cases.
So,
And
sorry to cut you off, but Keith Laundrie was 44 years old when he
44,
robbed the bank.
when he robbed a bank. So if that's his first robbery, he was really starting the veteran breaking
not
into the game
familiar.
pretty late.
Oh, sorry. I'm not familiar with this case, but like my first thing I was thinking of, did they look, I mean, I know this is not, they were not suspects, but the mom, the family and stuff, because it just like, wow, what horrible timing. She happened to run to the bathroom and then
Right.
suddenly this car comes in and takes her daughter. What are the chances of that happening?
And that's the
Pretty
question
crazy.
I had for AZ Williams and people can go and listen to the full interview. But I doubted if she actually walked Brittany out to the street every day.
Mm-hmm.
Because my
Well,
thought
by the
was
way, and
that,
that's the other piece of it.
right.
Things that don't make sense sometimes in cases may not be connected to what, like, it may not mean that the person's the perpetrator, but people spend all kinds of yarns for,
To
to
cover
look
their
good.
tracks in other ways because it's like you
Yeah.
want
To
to
not look like a
admit
bad
something
parent.
that
Right.
makes you look like a
Well,
terrible mom. Yeah.
Which is
depending-
why I say to people, let out, like, if you end up in the middle of a crime, somebody you love them, let out every bad thing you've ever
But
done.
that
If
can
I
be
disappear,
kinda
guys,
damning
please
too. Like,
tell them the truth, the whole
I
truth.
know, but if you say certain things, they might be like, "Oh, you did that? Oh, you definitely killed them
Be
then."
the suspect. Just get it all out. Just get it
Yeah,
all
true. I agree with you.
out.
Yeah.
Let them go.
Well,
But I also
Jason,
think it's really hard for parents, right? Because
Mhm.
there's just something in parents where, I mean, two things. I think you want to protect your image as a parent. That's not everybody, but there's a part of you just innately that wants to do it. I also think people want to protect their kids, so they lie about what's going on with their kids, and that can create some issues.
Yeah, and so I believe it was Sheriff Davis was the one that did interview Brittany's grandfather, and to the point of they searched Connie's house with us and put like crime. They're making a big spectacle out of it, like putting crime scene tape around their entire house. But I think that causes a ton of problems. But I do think that what really happened that day, I think it would make more sense if Brittany went out there every day.
Mhm.
And you've got this road in front of your house that is also a road that people go to Fort Bragg on and travel, and someone sees her there every day and
Exactly.
then plans on eventually kidnapping her.
That's
And let's
exactly
not
what I was
even
thinking. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, let's not even get past the point that Fort Bragg itself is like a crime mecca.
Right.
It has got so many problems with crime. There's that great book that came out this year. I can't think of its name.
The Cartel.
Is that the one that dealt with the Delta Force
Yes.
guy who got murdered?
I want to read it.
It goes into some of the history. I've got it back here. It is an amazing story. But part of what makes it amazing is you go through it, how many people on Fort Bragg and within Delta Force were involved in some kind of crime, like some kind of, like, whether it was sexual assault or whether it was a murder or drug dealing, or like there's one where one of the guys who ends up dead in this story shot his best friend because he got paranoid and high in front of their and was convinced that he was going to harm their kids. And so I think that also complicates a lot of the crime in that North Carolina area, because Jeffrey McDonald is another running example of it. I do think there's a tendency to cover up for people in that area, not just military people.
Is
There's
that
this
like,
whole culture of cover, because you have the special forces guys there, who,
Right.
you know, you want the United States government has serious interest in protecting them and keeping them out of trouble, but it creates this culture of like looking the other way.
Well, Cameron mentioned, like, the politics in this case, and I think in some ways it's an understatement. I mean, it devolves to the point that the new sheriff who's elected, were like, actually accuses the prior sheriff's son of potentially being involved in Brittany's kidnapping and murder. He publicly does this, and says that, and which is why he invites the Department of Justice and says that the sheriff is covering up for his own son because his son's truck and other things kind of align with the some of the descriptions coming in. It just seems like there's so much stuff in this case that is very difficult to unravel what is true or not. Even like you were saying, down to the mother's statement. I just, not based on anything, just aside from just a gut, I just don't get the sense that her family's involved. It seems like it's very easy to, it makes more sense that they felt, if anything, like Jayson was saying earlier, that they don't want to look like a bad parent, this entire thing. I do think that their statement does matter, though, and that if it's a difference between, if their statement is true, the window that we are working with is so small. If it was true as they described it, that it seems to either speak to something that's targeted, or probability-wise, a kind of once in a million scenario where someone who's willing to actually act opportunistically on a rape and kidnapping takes it right then when it presents itself, during a very small 2-minute window when the mother is just, peeing in the bathroom just before she even walks out there, because she can see from her front window in the kitchen where Brittany would have been during that.
You truly could have had somebody who's just sort of like an impulsive opportunist, but I would lean more toward, I forget which one of you is saying this, I don't know who is saying this, but toward the idea that like, you can have opportunistic killers, you can have planners, you can have people who are in between, right? They might be opportunistic, but they go back and forth on the same road, and they pay attention, and this is happening at the same time every day. And you do it enough times, you might start to get a read on how quickly people could respond and other stuff like that, or whether they have line of sight, right? If they're yelling and screaming. Well, it's very, yeah, it really, there's a big universe of potential people. And it goes to the point, mistrust in a community is just poison to a good investigation. Sorry, Kelli.
Oh, no, let's say she did stand out there with her daughter every single morning, which not that I care, but I just don't think that's probably what the scenario was. What a horrible guilt you would carry the rest of your life. That one morning, like, oh, am I being punished for the fact that I went in to go to the bathroom that one morning, that one time of 2 minutes I walked away and my child got kidnapped? I just think that's just like, what are the chances of that one morning?
By the way, we've had some weird cases like that in Virginia where, I remember in King George County, this was like in the 90s, 2 girls just playing in their front yard. Parents go in, they're gone for the longest time. It was a mystery. And then what is it? Richard Ivanovitz, the one who is also a suspect in Colonial Parkways and the Shenandoah murders. He was the one who eventually kidnapped the final girl he kidnapped, put her in the trunk, and she found a way out of it. But come to find out, that was a serial killer. And he had also killed several other people on Route 28. And very similar, like they're hanging out on the side of the road and then they're not there anymore.
Crazy.
All opportunistic stuff, but on the path. Yeah.
They look for routines and patterns and things
Right.
like that.
That's how I feel about my neighbor. If somebody gets abducted, I'm going straight to him. He conveniently, there's this other woman in my neighborhood who, you know, I hope to God she never hears this, but she's a school teacher, so she leaves on a regular routine. And I'm like, why does his door open every time she goes? And I know he has nothing to do. I know he's working from home remotely and doing nothing. So look, if any of my neighbors disappear, it's that guy.
It is that guy. It is totally that guy.
It is that guy at the end. It's him.
I have to give a little anecdote and a PSA here. So, we were just talking about like serial killers and the patterns and people who are opportunistic, and my true crime mind is always like, lock my doors because a serial killer is going to come. Someone's going to murder me in the middle of the night, whatever. My oldest son was like, you spend far too much time worrying about things like that are never going to happen because statistically they're never going to happen. He's like, what you really need to worry about is in that corner in the computer room, you have 5 extension cords plugged in together and they're going to start a house fire. That's the real threat.
Good
here.
point.
So, yeah, and I'm like,
child.
you are so right.
Wise kid.
Fire hazards. Be careful this Christmas season, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And don't be greedy with your wine either.
No.
Don't go
That's
still
awesome.
$600,000 in it. It's an interesting case, and it's kind of like I don't know. It is sort of like the John Benet Ramsey of North Carolina.
Yeah, and I think John
Who done
Benet
it?
is another one that's. I feel like that should be solved.
That is gonna be solved. I'll take that one to the bank.
Very
That's gonna be
soon.
solved. Yeah.
2026 at the latest.
I don't know that.
How
it's not.
confident are you in this? Because I've
100%.
heard people say that.
100%.
Well, and I don't even know that much about it, but I am seeing so much buzz and chatter online, and they're like,
And I hope
it's
so.
like,
I really
gonna
do.
happen.
Well, CrimeCon was in Denver, right?
Right.
Yeah, I was there. I didn't meet you were there. We didn't meet.
You weren't there, Kelly? Did you
I
notice
was
the
there.
FBI agents?
No, I did
Mhm.
not. I don't think
There was a
so.
very large entourage of FBI agents that came through,
Oh.
not through the convention, but into the hotel.
Is it because of a certain guest who was
I'm
trying to
guessing,
meet up with?
and some other, yeah.
All right.
with
This
a
could be a
certain
whole
someone?
another episode.
I-
But
I
since
should
we're
shut my
live,
mouth right now.
You
But
know
it
what,
was
you're in the inner
interesting.
circle of trust.
Mhm.
We'll just pretend we're not live.
You and everybody on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
mean,
but-
I get
Public
the
knowledge.
strong feeling that there's some really, really strong leads.
And those are so frustrating too. When you watch those cases and
that
you
case
just see just
probably
the
could have been.
blatant mistakes, but then you also think you've got so much to work with.
I think it could have been solved in the first week. I really do.
Well, is it going to be someone like, I don't know this case as well as probably all of you, but like, is it going to be, except for just, I'm familiar with all of some of the major suspects and events, but I'm wondering, is this going to be one of those cases when it's solved where it's just like, is someone totally random? Like where I think about like with the yogurt shop murders, that there was so many different suspects and people tied to it. And when it was finally solved recently, I remember thinking it was like a really big deal for like a week. And now I really haven't heard too much discussion
about
about it. It was just like, oh, okay. Yeah.
He had no connection. Right?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah.
So
I
think
think
the difference,
different animal though. Like that's a very popular case.
But I think the difference in the John Benet case is, how we were talking about, like, it's really helpful for fresh eyes to go back and look at cases, right? And it's really helpful for them to take a look because in the first few weeks, chances are you have the suspect's name.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a really bad investigation, you're not going to have that. So if you look at it this way, if it were a normal investigation by experienced investigators, I'm willing to bet the person's name would have been in the first few weeks of investigations. I can almost guarantee you it's not. in the first few weeks of the file, or any of the people that we're speculating about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so obvious. And I mean, not who the person is, but it's so obvious what kind of colossal mistakes that an experienced investigator would have walked into that scenario, looked at that ransom note, looked at the circumstances, and probably would have narrowed the range so quickly. You know, when you have a case that's happening over the holidays and people are coming in from out of town and things are changing, if you don't canvass immediately, you're going to miss all the people who leave, all the family members of other people who are in town, you know, maybe guests visiting who used to live in the area. You lose so much. And, you know, I just wish the Boulder police had recognized their inexperience in that moment and reached out to help for whoever, whether it was state or local or whoever, because I think to a more experienced investigator, it's not a hindsight thing. It's just so obvious where you looked, and you were looking everywhere else, where you should have looked, but you were looking everywhere else.
Well, I just can't believe in that case where they had the father go check the house for her.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the neighbors are like in there eating donuts and drinking coffee and whatnot. It's like, can we please just get everyone out of the fucking house?
Right.
And like,
Or
put
just
the
have
nice,
one
pretty
person
color-
here for the call. Just one person.
Yeah.
That's hard
Yeah.
though, because like they were a very wealthy family with a very well connected with a lot of friends, and
also, you didn't have a body yet, right?
True,
You didn't have
true.
a person.
and they had a lot of support systems coming in to like, I don't know.
But you know what you did
them.
have? You had a crime scene. You're
Right.
pretty sure you
Oh,
had a crime
yeah.
scene.
For sure. But what I'm saying, I think sometimes the investigators would feel like, oh, this is not my place to
Yep.
tell them what to do. Or, you know,
Intimidated.
kind of like
Yeah.
that, maybe a little intimidated or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And, you know, I've heard people talk about that worked in nicer parts of Raleigh. I never did. I worked in Southeast, so we didn't have that issue. And I could definitely, you know, see that in Boulder, but right. It's that's one of those that's just frustrating. I'm thankful that hopefully it will get solved.
I think it will.
Me too.
I think it will. And I can tell you, I don't have a clue who. I don't have a clue who. Right? I don't. Well, I mean, maybe I have a clue, but I don't have
You're
a
holding
good
back on
idea
us.
of a person that it is. But I think the universe, when it does happen and it gets solved, we're all gonna go, oh.
My biggest regret and the thing I'm the most sad about that case is that the family was in the media and like public eye, like they were guilty
Yeah.
in the eye of the public, but they were not. I mean, I know they did not do it. Like,
And I also
family
think
had
that
nothing to do with it.
as a member or former member, current member, recovered member of the media, you know, and you know, you cover what you have to cover and all sorts of things. But if you look at the behaviors of all of the Ramseys, and I know people have given them a lot of crap, but like they're doing everything you would do if you were innocent.
Right.
I mean, like John Ramsey would probably talk if the homeless guy on the street had like a good idea, he would go hunt them out. He's
Exactly.
clearly not knocking all these doors because he's hiding on something. And the rest of the family members, I think, quietly are doing everything they can.
Yeah. But people who know nothing about the case or nothing about true crime in general, they're always like, if you bring up that case, they're like, oh, the brother did it, right? The brother did it. I'm like,
Right.
you are a moron. No, he did not do it.
Or the mom did it, right?
Yes. Like what? No, you don't know anything about it if you're saying that. Do you guys, I'm thankful that that people are talking about aliens now. Do you guys believe in aliens?
You know, I saw some
out there. I want to believe. Trust no one.
The Age of Disclosure. It's the new documentary on Amazon Prime. I spent the $20. I rented it today. Amazing. It's great.
What
I
is
love
this
I
about?
shouldn't do a
I've not
book
heard
on
it at all.
aliens.
It's about all the blatant cover-ups of alien contact and government programs that are true. It's all factual, but they've been hidden from the public eye, and a bunch
Didn't
of
you
like
guys watch that? X-Files?
high-ranking government officials have come out and told their story, and it was a really good documentary. So
Did you guys not?
I'm very
read
confused by a lot of this stuff. Like the whole, I don't know when the phrase interdimensional being like was introduced into kind of popular lexicon recently, but I've seen that phrase come up a lot from like government, like from congressmen and others. And yeah, I mean, I'm in Florida right now at this moment, and Representative Luna in our state, like talk in this, or not my state, but this state right now, is has talked about used this term very casually, and I still can't wrap my head around what what are the implications of an interdimensional thing? What does that even mean?
they start to talk
no
about it
idea.
at the end of the documentary. It's because, like, if you say alien, you're talking
Mhm.
about space, some space thing with tentacles or whatever. But interdimensional, I think they're bringing in like quantum physics into it. So it's like, well, maybe they exist just in another dimension that we can't see, or
Dimension.
something like that.
Or-
Anyway, I digress. Sorry.
Oh no, you
Well-
can go down any rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole. I know. I love this rabbit hole because I mean, I don't know. It makes more sense. I've added some things to the stage for you.
There you go. I once.
Yeah.
And the next one.
All right.
Oh, it is.
Thank you, Fox. Thank you, Dana. All this alien stuff doesn't shock me.
I'll tell you what, the TikTok video, or was it the Tic Tac video?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, like all those are really
real,
interesting.
though. It's not doctored. That is real.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
an actual
I
from
would
a
listen to an
government
entire podcast on that.
aircraft. It was taken from a government aircraft. Like,
I
it
mean,
actually happened.
there've been UFOs, whether it's aliens or
Mhm.
not.
They call them
definitely
UAPs now,
Yeah,
but
Is there
I-
any way I can do a show on that and somehow make it true crime to justify doing
Yeah,
it? I would
the
do it.
crime against
the perfect
humanity that the government has been lying to us about it. That's
perfect
the crime.
murder. So the perfect murder. If you hear I went on a spaceship and somebody died, no, I did it. The perfect murder is actually a murder in outer space, because there was this treaty that we were all supposed to sign, countries were supposed to sign, about governing laws, what criminal law in outer space would be. We never did. So, like, if you actually want to murder someone, get them up in that spaceship and kill them, and no one will have jurisdiction.
Whoa, so if astronauts had a mutiny on board, like, and they killed each other, they couldn't be technically.
No one would have
charged for crime.
jurisdiction. No one would
Wow.
have jurisdiction.
That's actually interesting. That would make a good
Mhm.
movie.
Yep.
Did
It's
you
a
hear
little
they're
bit of
gonna do-
hole in the law.
Yes. Well, you
That's-
know that Elon is going to go to Mars eventually,
Oh yeah.
or
Hope he
send
stays.
someone, and
I
then
think he's from Mars,
Could
I've
he
actually.
heard that
stay and
it
take
would not
Twitter
surprise
with
me
him?
if he's part alien.
Yeah.
And I've heard we're going to go back to the moon, or go to the moon the first time.
Or will we go for the
depending-
first
yeah.
time?
Depending on what you believe. I love this stuff.
I love this stuff too. I've been thinking about getting out of true crime and just like diving into this.
Moonlanding. Moonlanding.
If you want to do a
You gonna
show
bring QAnon
on
back while you're at
aliens
it?
or interdimensional beings, whatever you want to call it,
You're my co-host.
I would
Done.
definitely do that.
Great idea.
Yeah.
We've
You guys
got
would be
it.
good.
We have so much time for that also.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
that
there's
is
so many public records. I mean, you could spend years going through that and just do.
Just
you know,
remember. the
a
truth
show.
is
Well,
out there.
And that was one thing that was interesting when they released a lot of the Project Blue Book documents, like in the batch that preceded some of the JFK and RFK like file dumps that they did. I remember being really excited about it and downloading it, but maybe like some of the detectives and some of the cases we kind of looked at, you see like, oh, hundreds of thousands of pages. Like, yeah, I'm not read a few pages. Was like, yeah, I'm not reading this. It was, it's like very dense science. And I think that sometimes there's an appetite for just give us all of the papers that are out there. And then you get what you ask for. And it's like, wow, it's very difficult to read because you're not the intended audience for it.
Someone out there is doing it, though. You know that. And that's where AI comes into play.
I was about to say it. Yeah.
AI. And
I'll
then
drop that into Chat GPT.
Yes.
Tell me to explain it to me like a third
But
grader.
that's the beauty, by the way, of, well, it's just going to tell you what you want to hear. But the beauty of this world of AI is it's going to make it a lot easier for governments to hide things. It's going to make it so. Oh yes, because look, so you look at it this way, exactly what you guys were saying. You know, we can go look and interpret documents that we never could have interpreted more. They can fake things just as well with more computer power. So like disinformation is going to become so easy.
Hold on,
but
you're
then there's
that's fake.
Yes. Then there's the AI effect, right? That picture could be totally real. I could have done that. I could have dressed in a Klan outfit. All I have to say is that's BS. That's AI.
That is scary.
Don't give me any ideas.
This is what I'm telling you. Put me in a clown outfit. I will maybe deny it.
Not that anyone.
I tried to put Kelli in with a like a Native American headdress.
Show us.
Do that.
And it was denied.
Don't do
that. You know what? I am 0.2% indigenous, something like that. I'm like a very small fraction of a percent. My mom is like almost 1%. So does that mean I can wear that?
You would definitely get canceled.
I just told ChatGPT I'm an interdimensional being, and it said, "Wow, that's quite a statement. Are you speaking metaphorically to me right now, or is this a fugitive idea? Are you joking?" And I said no, and it said, "Well, tell me, what kind of being are you? Are you a cosmic traveler, a multiverse hopper, a higher?
And what drugs have you done tonight?
Or something else entirely?" Yeah.
What drugs have you done tonight? Oh, good God.
Oh, well, what is everyone doing for Thanksgiving? Traveling?
I have no idea. I am not traveling, but I have no idea what I'm doing for Thanksgiving. There are options on the table with multiple families and still being sorted and arranged.
It's been put on your calendar. You just haven't looked yet.
And that's what I was just going to say. Nina's going to tell me where to go.
Thank God for Nina.
I know, seriously, everybody needs one. I really appreciate it.
Me and Brian were joking. Actually, we had our Thanksgiving already. Now that he's in Wilmington, he came down to Raleigh, and he told me that I guess one of his friends, he was trying to get on your show, and he had emailed you.
Me?
And you didn't respond.
Well, no, this is she. Yeah, this is the person we.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, Jayson didn't respond right." I was like, "Well, did you CC Nina?"
Is that a real thing?
Like, no, that's why. Like, you need to absolutely,
or at least send her a separate email that says, "Could you please get him to reply to this?" Yeah, no, because what I will do, at least with those emails, I will batch them. I'll go in and be like, "Oh, good Lord, I haven't gotten back to these people over 2 weeks, even though I thought I wanted to," and then just bang through it. And that's actually that guest. That's a great idea. That is such a perfect guest for me, by the way, bro.
I want Nina to come on this show sometime. I want to meet who this person is.
Gosh.
Behind the scenes.
She is a behind the scenes kind of person. I mean, I will invite her. She will laugh, but I will make sure to let her know.
Well, we're doing our Christmas special pretty soon. And
we are doing a Christmas special.
You were all invited.
Okay. But
you can give me an answer now.
Osri, like we gotta invite Jayson Osri.
I love him. Yes.
Seriously, you should suggest it to him.
Okay.
I mean, the Santa of true crime is the man that we want to have, and I actually heard him announce that Santa may be a criminal is coming back.
Is it?
Yes,
Oh,
it
that's
is.
great. I love it.
Yeah, shoot me or have Nina shoot me some ideas. But I thought about having the four of us on, and then we'll bring on a guest every week.
I love it.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Oh ho ho.
Before we go, I don't know if we're going yet, but before we do, I just want to mention that November is Men's Mental Health Month. And
Oh.
this is a big time where people struggle with loneliness and depression. And especially men, especially first responders and veterans. So if
Mhm.
anybody's struggling out there, I know you can. There are so many places to call. I don't know the number. If anyone does, let's put it up on the screen. But, I mean, you could even reach out to any one of us and we will walk you through it because we don't want to lose any more people to that horrible thing, depression. So it's really hard out there. It's hard to be human, but you don't
Right.
have to do it alone.
And most people from their cell phones in most areas can dial 988 for
There we go.
national
That's it.
suicide.
Yes.
And it's not just for suicide, but it's mental health, and then also the National Alliance, for the Mentally Ill, NAMI. You can call, I think it's 1-800-950-6264. So
Yeah.
those are two resources.
I've struggled a lot of years with holidays around this time. Just, being divorced and not always having my kids with me every year, back and forth. And just, not to the point where I'm suicidal, but it's just hard. And
it can be sad.
It can be so hard for people, and especially people who are bearing a lot of weight of other things. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah,
And
and I think season change too, coming at these times. I
Mhm.
think, there's that people are suffering all the time or going through difficult things all the time, but there's this expectation for this period to be joyous, and people have these high expectations for those things. I think it can make it pretty hard. I know in my mental health work, this was one of the toughest times and riskiest times, particularly for older adults. And by older, I really mean like once you start to get to the point where your kids are growing up a little bit and a little there. And then the other period where we saw the most suicides was, I'm not even kidding, this week in June, where the psychiatrists go off to their national conferences. So what I take from that as a lesson is, if you're going through a tough time right now, reaching out to a mental health professional really does make a difference. Really can.
Definitely. Yep.
And if your troubles don't rise to the level that both of you are describing, like you said, we hope you'll reach out to someone and get help, because this holiday season is better having everyone around with us. But if you're just looking for just a quick mental health break, reading is good.
Don't read
soul.
a book about
Strongly
a murder
encourage you-
in North Carolina, because
No,
that
I
would be
strongly encourage
really
you to
depressing.
pick up
Wait.
another campus
Brian.
professor that
You're jumping the gun there. Because if you're feeling lonely at night and you're a guy, what you can do is you can have Kelli read you a sleep story.
That's right.
Not
About
only if
murder
you're
or
a guy,
Women too.
women
Probably
like
most
it
of them
too.
are women, I'm guessing.
Women are welcome too.
My audience is 75% women on the podcast.
Mine, if you can believe this, 89% women.
Wow.
89% women. Yeah.
And that will be the Silver Linings Handbook for those that aren't aware. And what Brian was referring to was, if you're looking for a good gift for someone, A Murder on Campus, A Professor to Cop, in North Carolina's most notorious cold case.
A very good
It's a
book.
perfect holiday gift. It also comes in Kindle, Audible, and it's available anywhere where you can buy a book.
Oh, who recorded your audiobook?
This
Some
is Gary
random-
Williams, the guy. He's actually a professional football announcer. He was the announcer for the Oakland
cool.
Raiders and for Stanford for a period. But
Nice.
it sounds wonderful. And so if anyone's interested in audio books, those are there. And if you read the book and you feel inspired and want to be involved with this case, We had an early Christmas present in that Mike Lamb, the current chief of police for the city of Asheville, just recently announced his retirement the other day. We have a new chief of police coming in. We have a new district attorney coming in. We have a lot of potential opportunities for things
New
for the
eyes.
for the change in this case. And so we hope you will reach out to the current detectives who are all in their late 70s at this point, and the hopefully youthful energy that will come in with a new police chief and encourage them to reopen this case again.
And maybe you can write some more articles about it on your website, briansantanaauthor.com.
Do you actually write with a typewriter, Brian?
It's funny.
Cool.
Actually, on my wish list is a typewriter that like you can put your iPad on. It just feels
typewriters are cool.
typewriter keys and sounds. Yeah, and so you,
Can
That's
you
so funny.
even imagine?
All right,
and I
guys.
do accept gifts on Instagram now officially. So if you would like to be the person to buy me that typewriter, I am happy to. I'm happy to.
You can reach my Venmo at.
Cash at me.
All right. I think we're done going down rabbit holes. We've been going at it for almost 2 hours. Thank you all for coming on, and hopefully we will do this soon. Make sure that you like and subscribe to Santana True Crime. You can also follow me on Instagram at Santana True Crime, and I'm sure that you can follow Kelli Brink at
Kelli Brink.
Kelli Brink, as well as make sure that you subscribe to True Crime Sleep Stories, and you can follow Jayson Blair at Silver Lining Handbook.
HB on most platforms.
Yes. Well, thank you all, and good night.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Be grateful for something.
I'm thankful for you.
Indeed.